Aloha. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm called Shell. It's March 8th, 2025. And so blessed to be receiving a break from this powerful, cold wind that's been gusting through here. And yeah, how lovely. What a treat. I sat down and I'm in full sun now, and the wind is still in the moment. Yes, wind. I love the metaphor of blowing wind, signaling change, blowing out old energies and blowing in new for great change. What I wanted to share today was something that came up for me as I was doing my cleansing this morning. Oftentimes when I'm colon cleansing, I have these wonderful realizations, memories that I want to share, and then by the time I'm done and I've cleaned up, I'm in a new moment and it's gone. So today I remembered, and so I'm sharing today. I want to really introduce, if this is a new concept to you, the realization that all time is non-linear. Like time, and I've spoken to this before, but time, as we have been taught and programmed to believe in, where we're like looking at watches and looking at calendars and all of these things to fit into this defined time, it's just all an illusion. All time is simultaneous. And so what's really in me today is this knowing that our healing is non-linear, just as time is non-linear. Our awakening is healing, right? It's like when we are becoming more conscious, then we are awakening to our potential to be sovereign, to be our own healers. And so I had this memory today of not having a voice. I was thinking about, in recent years, as I've been more and more freeing my voice, and I remembered being a child and even into my teenage years and having to go to therapy. Like, my parents brought me multiple different times throughout my childhood and early teens to different therapists, psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, and the psychiatrist could actually prescribe drugs. And so when I was a preteen and becoming a teenager, I was put on, I was prescribed lithium, and I was labeled bipolar. I was put on Zoloft and all sorts of things, Paxil, Prozac. So anyway, multiple different drugs throughout my early years of life, and all these labels, manic depressive, bipolar, I could go on and on. And the truth of it was, none of my parents, I had a mother, a father, and a step-parent during these times of my life, none of them were being honest about why I was so troubled. My mom never spoke a word her entire life to me while she was alive about the fact that her boyfriend had violently and sexually molested me when I was 4. Never mentioned. And when my dad and his, at the time, wife were taking me to weekly therapy sessions, Neither of them were speaking to the fact that they were physically and verbally beating me and abusing me at home. None of this was shared. And so there I was in these sessions with therapists being prescribed things because nobody was using their voice in truth. My parents weren't saying, well, when we're at home, we beat her physically, we put her down verbally, we call her names and tell her she's never going to be anything, and all these kind of things, and all she does is cry, and she's all depressed all the time, and now she's running away and she's out of control. And that was the thing. It was like the theme always was, she's out of control, we don't know what to do. But they weren't speaking to what was really going on. They weren't speaking to the environment that they were creating for me. They weren't speaking to the betrayal I experienced because of them, or the abuse, none of it. And so I didn't have a voice. I couldn't sit in front of them in these appointments and say, well, actually I did. At some point I did finally say, I'm being physically beaten, and like I'm being tortured and made to go sit outside in all different kinds of conditions, and whatever, when I can't stop crying because of the depression I'm in. Yeah, it's true, I was suicidal my whole childhood, and I attempted suicide when I was early in my preteens because, my gosh, I didn't have a voice, and there wasn't a single person in my life advocating for my care at that time. And so yeah, I was just today, as I was cleansing, I was like really feeling like how much of that I have let go. And what came to me, beyond this whole non-speaking being toxicity, right? I mean, my mother, bless her heart, she was my best friend for years before she left. And I was 30 years old when she left, and she had throat cancer that metastasized to her brain. But what I came to know in the years after her death, through my own healing journey, was that those deep, dark secrets that she held inside, that she never spoke to me or to others, became the toxicity that created the cancer in her body that killed her. And so I'm speaking today on multiple different messages, and one of them is that not speaking the truth and holding things inside is toxicity that creates dis-ease. And of course, we know dis-ease creates things like cancer and other things that ultimately lead us to leave our bodies. And so, and end the life that we're currently in, though the soul is eternal and lives on. The other thing I wanted to share was that when my son was a preteen and into his very early teens, he also was greatly depressed. And I remember we were going to therapy, group therapy. I refused when the HMO that we were affiliated with, that was also my employer at the time, our first meeting with the psychiatrist, he wanted to put my son on an antidepressant, and he was like 13 at the time, and I went, absolutely not, no way, we're not doing drugs, what else you got? And so we did twice a week group therapy sessions, and the teens were in their own session once a week with the therapist, and then the other day the parents were invited to be there. So it was myself and my son's stepfather, and the three of us would go, and I would oh my goodness, I was there like observing participating as well, but observing. And I had this wonderful aha one day, and I said to, and it was so beautiful because my son's stepfather was not even my partner at the time, but he was still co-parenting with me, even though we were not in a romantic relationship, we were not living together. He was still showing up as this father figure in his life, and going to therapy with us. And so we left one of the sessions one day, and I said, it's me, it's us, it's the parents. We are the ones that create these conditions. The reason our children are depressed, the reason our children are suffering, has to do with us as the parents. And for myself, I wasn't present. I didn't know how to be present. And I was repeating a lot of the patterns from my childhood, like, going out every weekend and partying all the time, and not sitting down in the evenings to really check homework and to check in to say, how's your day? Who are you spending your time with at school? What are you learning? I hadn't been taught that, and I didn't have it. And so it was such a big aha for me to know that the state of my son's emotional suffering was a direct result of the experience that he was having through my parenting. My not knowing how to parent, and how to be there for him. And so I won't say that suddenly life changed and I became a good parent, but it was the aha I needed to really begin to work more on myself. And so what I can say now is, all these years later, he's a new father. His son is 4 months old, and they now come and spend over the night, come out for a weekend and stay with us once a month. And I can say we have a beautiful relationship because I made myself accountable. I wanted to become a better person. I wanted to become my true self. I wanted to experience loving myself so I could show up to love him fully. And he's always been very loving and kind and sweet. And so, it confirms to me that I was always doing the best I can and loving him unconditionally. And with that, also, there was so much he didn't get from me because I didn't have it in myself. So I share all this about parental accountability, how every moment is a new moment, and it's never too late, because what I've experienced directly is that my own healing, my own journey to knowing my true self, to self-realization, it also creates the healing in all of the relationships that I have. So it creates the healing in the relationship with my son, as well as my mother after she left her body and wasn't here. I mean, I was devastated when she left because she was my best friend, but in the years, 10 years, 11 years after she left, I learned what happened to me, and that she knew and never, ever shared that with me. It was like betrayal on so many levels, right? The betrayal of it happening, the betrayal of then dying with it as a secret. Thank goodness she told my grandmother so that it could be confirmed for me, so I didn't think I was a mad woman having these memories, but even after that and coming to know it, I was able to forgive her, and and to forgive myself, to accept that my soul came here to have all of these experiences to make me who I am today. I am a teacher and a guide, and through all the trainings I've done, you know, I've gone through training to be a priestess of the oracle, and I've trained to become an alchemical healer, and I've trained and studied with you know, shaman and African samangoa, and I've done tantra yoga teacher trainings and all of these things. But let me share with you that the greatest training that I have in my life is through direct experience. It is through all of the experiences that we label like we would consider traumatic, or, you know, the violence, the abuse, all the things. I know that I chose as a soul to have those experiences, to have experiencing deep bouts of depression throughout my life, feelings of aloneness, attempting suicide, losing a family member to suicide, you know, being physically beaten, being sexually attacked and molested and raped, and all the things that happened all throughout the first 30 years of my life, really. And it's okay now, because I can say to my soul, thank you, and I forgive you. I forgive you for needing to have these most horrific direct experience to then be the way shower back to love. And yeah, it's been a journey that didn't happen overnight. What does it take? Dedication and compassion. Yesterday I shared about numbing the aliveness I've been feeling with little squares of chocolate and a few chips. And today I realized, like, it's okay to have compassion right now that I'm eating these few little things. I'm not going crazy. I'm staying dedicated. I'm staying dedicated to my own purity, to being the living example of my highest potential in every moment. I'm still dedicated to that. And I have compassion for myself to have little cheats, things that are not in alignment with my greatest potential, but that I know the level of harm that they are creating is minuscule. So yeah, a lot there. Accountability, using our voice to speak truth, silence. Of course, silence is also really important, so let me not use that word, but the withholding and holding in of truth that needs to be shared as toxicity that leads to dis-ease in our bodies. Yeah, accountability for, if we realize that our actions and what we're doing create harm in the lives of others, acknowledge it. Be accountable for it. Speak up. Because it's the awareness and the accountability that creates the change. So, let's see. Well, I made a little tiny note today. I never make notes, and then when I'm done with these videos, I'm like, oh, I didn't even share what I intended to share, or what I first thought I was going to share. So, yeah, that's it for today. The last thing I will speak to again is that our healing experiences, they're not linear. We don't go on this journey to then say, oh, this happened in my earliest childhood years, and this is what I'm healing now, and then I'm going to work my way through my life up to where I am now. Hi, beautiful vulture. It doesn't work that way. We're non-linear beings. And so there are days where I wake up and what's coming through for me and what's present for me, the heaviness I feel is related to my ancestors. I have woke up on a day and felt so depressed where I can't stop crying, and the voices I'm hearing in my head over and over again are, you belong in a mental institution. You should kill yourself. You don't deserve to live. Like, to the point where I had to ask my beloved, I didn't ask him, I said, I need you to hide and lock up your hunting rifle, because the voices in my head are so powerful today, and it's taking everything I have to discern that they aren't my voices. So what came through after 3 days of being in that state was that it related to an uncle and my grandmother on my maternal side. And if you're just getting to know me and you don't know this about me, I've actually been institutionalized, because when I was a teenager, that was one of my dad's what he thought was going to be a solution to controlling me when I was out of control, was they had me admitted to a psych facility. So I was, yeah. And like I said, I have a history with depression and suicide and my own attempts at it. So this was just about 2 years ago. I was having this experience one day, and it was the voices in my head were so loud. And thank goodness I was at a point in my life where I could ask myself over and over again, is this my voice? Is this my voice? Is this my voice? And it took 3 days to get clear that it wasn't mine, and that what was coming through me was wanting to be transmuted and healed for family and my mother's lineage, going beyond even my grandmother into my ancestry. And so I share this because, again, today I had an aha moment in thinking about something from my own childhood, and other times it's something ancestral or it's something more recent. Or so this journey we're on, it's non-linear. And I hope that in really like contemplating that, it also relaxes any thought that may ever come up of like, I should be further along, or things should be different, or, you know, why am I still experiencing this, or why, you know, there's no finish line. It's not a race. It's just, most importantly, coming back to loving yourself. And in the most difficult moments, when life is so chaotic or so heavy or sad or whatever it is, just finding that one thing that you're really grateful for and allowing that to be your anchor back into your own heart. Because in your heart, your soul, every part of you knows that you are love and you are loved. And we are here to experience love and to love one another. So friends, family, beloveds, thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Thanks for being on this journey with me. I'm grateful for your time and your presence, your listening, your witnessing. Mahalo.